Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to BKNetsNation's live reactions to the just completed Sean Marks interview. I'm Mike Hosier. I'm the host of the BKNetsNation Daily Show, live here on YouTube and also on X. You can find me all across social media on all forms at mhosierbk. Happy 4th of July. Happy belated 4th of July. BKNetsNation's kind of been, to quote Dr. Dre, in the lab with a pen and a pad trying to get this damn label off. Been deep at work planning full content all across the summer and into the new NBA season, but we are here live and we are talking about the full interview that Sean Marks just gave regarding the Mikal Bridges trade, and he touched on a myriad of different topics during this interview. And shout out to Lucas Kaplan, who's a writer for Nets Daily, who posted the full transcript on X. So we'll be using that. So shout out to Lucas for posting that. Big help, as it's very hard to find Sean Marks interviews online because I never seem to stream live, which can be entirely frustrating. So to start, the question is very simple. Why did you trade Mikal Bridges? And he went on to say, it's not an easy decision, but at the same time, when you have an offer like we did from New York, I think that sets up on a very, very clear direction and pathway to continue to build this team with sustainable success. He knew what was needed. The organization and ownership knew what was needed. And again, when you have a godfather-like offer from the New York Knicks, it is very hard to turn that down. And in that quote right there, he is signaling that was by far the best offer. And it probably wasn't even close compared to some of the other rumored teams, a la like the Utah Jazz, that were looking to possibly acquire Mikal Bridges. Then it was asked, it was reported for a while that you had been turning down deals for him. Was this just a better deal, or did something change that? He said, in terms of this particular deal, this was by far the best deal for our organization at this particular time to do it. And hence they made the move. When you get something like that, when you're looking to trade, I guess what the Nets would consider Mikal Bridges to be a franchise guy, you're looking for that type of offer, right? Matt Ishbia of the Phoenix Suns stopped at nothing to get Kevin Durant. Hence why when we had to trade Kevin Durant begrudgingly to the entire Nets nation and all of Nets world, we got a king's ransom back for Kevin Durant because he's Kevin Durant. We were able to do something similar with Mikal Bridges because there was a team across the river that needed and wanted this type of player because they are looking up at Boston, and the ownership group and Sean Marks knew that when you get an offer like that, it is hard to turn down that type of deal. Then it went on, was that a deal you were sitting on for a while? And if so, did he express either a lack of confidence in what was going on here or a desire to go there? Sean went on to say that he and Leon Rose talked for a couple days on this thing, and it moved very, very quickly. And you could tell how interested they were in adding Mikal to that group, which obviously that's been talked about for a variety of different reasons. You have the Nova 4 with Brunson, Hart, DiVincenzo, and Bridges. And then he went on to say, so there was, I think it's been reported that Mikal wanted to leave or requested a trade. That could not be further from the truth. I think that's just not Mikal's character. It's not who he is. That last part, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think he requested a trade. And I had said this in our first live episode for our free agency kickoff, that once rumors and things started to fly, and I'm sure Sean Marks has been very upfront and very candid with all his players. He was taking offers on Mikal Bridges. He was trying to see which pathway he wanted to take, and he was taking offers. I think once Mikal Bridges knew that offers were being taken on his name for him to be traded, I do believe he asked, like, hey, do you think you can trade me to the Knicks? I want to play there. I'm not going to sign an extension with any other team. I want to play with the Knicks. And then the Knicks came in and were very aggressive in getting him. I don't necessarily know, not that it's a judge on Mikal's character. He didn't come right out like Kevin Durant did or Kyrie and said, hey, if you don't sign me, trade me. I don't want to be here no more. I want to be traded, and then give you one team. I'm sure Mikal realized this is probably the path they were going down. We weren't going to be able to build a star around, put stars around him to kind of make him that center point of this franchise. But if you are going to trade me to the Knicks. And it worked out for all parties involved. And then he went on to talk about the importance of retaining Nick Claxton as a free agent. And he said, I think Nick fits in a variety of different pathways. He wants to go. He's young. I think he's still scratching the surface in here, and I just loved his overall approach to him wanting more and more development. So now, with some of the changes to our roster, I think we'll even see more from Nick moving forward. I hope that more moving forward means an expanded offensive game. I'm very happy with the contract, and even the way they structured the contract is awesome for the path that we're going to take and how the Nets realize where they're going to need their cap space. They front loaded the cap space. They front loaded the contract so that I believe the first year was a little over 27 million, and then it descends from there through the length of the 4-year contract. So when you get into the third and fourth years, I believe it's under 14% of the cap in year 3 and under 12% of the cap in year 4. It's silly to look at numbers. Okay. The annual value, the yearly salary is it is what it is. It's monopoly money, right? But the percentage of the cap to know where he will fit in year 3 and year 4, when, let's be honest, that is when the Nets expect to be competitive. That is when the Nets expect to be signing some of these guys to extensions or going into trades and free agency to go get players to supplement whatever this roster is going to look like in the next 2 years. Structuring this contract this way allows them to do that. And then the big question, what are the next steps for this rebuild as far as where this roster can go in future moves? And once again, if you like what you're seeing here, this is BKNetsNation. I'm Mike Hozier. Please consider hitting the subscribe button, clicking that bell so you can get all the latest BKNetsNation content. And also follow me on all forms of social media, especially on X at mhozierbk. So Sean Marks, as far as the next step of the rebuild, and I quote, I think we have to be patient. We're not going to be in a hurry. There's not a sort of, well, you have to trade this, or you have to make this, or you have to have those trade assets that were the draft assets that we've got, or anything like that. And then he went on to say, but this build, do I think it's going to take time? I mean, I think we'll be strategic in it, but I do think being in this market with this amount of draft assets, we've done this before. And so again, I think we could, not that it's going to be expedited by any means, but I don't think it's going to be a long process for sure. I have said this. I think this is going to be a hybrid approach. Depending on this season, we're losing games. We are losing games. There's no doubt about it. We're not trying to compete this season. I think you get to the draft, you see how the ping pong balls bounce in our favor, and I believe you have an opportunity to draft franchise-changing talent at the top of the 2025 draft. And then they're going to go into free agency with as much as $100 million of cap space. They have to spend 90% of that. Bottom line, you have to spend at least 90% of said salary cap. So they're going to be in market, whether it be taking on contracts for more draft assets, which with the number of draft assets they currently have, 15 or 16 first-round picks, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to do a lot of 1+1 deals with veterans to surround young talent with some veteran leadership, and then to help move this team forward into the 25-26 season. But he also left, that not that it's going to be expedited by any means, but I don't think it's going to be a long process either. If an opportunity presents itself to go get a star player next summer or next season, the 25-26 season, I think he'll be ready to move. I don't think he is going to wait 2-3 years if the opportunity presents itself and the right deal comes about to add star level players to this roster. I'm not saying he's going to do it. I'm not saying that next summer he's going to go try to trade for a Trae Young or a Devin Booker or something of that nature. All I'm saying is he left the door open for the possibility that we have all these assets, we have all this money, we are in New York City, we are in the biggest market in the world. Players are going to want to come play here. And I've seen a lot on X about, especially with Knicks fans, no one's going to play there, you're trash, you're this, you're that. I get it. New York City is still New York City. Brooklyn is still Brooklyn. People want to live in Brooklyn. People will want to come play in Brooklyn. That is what they think, meaning ownership and Sean Marks. They have said this countless times before. Their opinions of their franchise, their organization, their location has not changed at all. They believe they can do that. So then he went on to talk about Jordi Fernandez, what it's been like having a new head coach as you navigate free agency and the changes to the roster. Jordy Fernandez right now is out getting ready to coach Team Canada. And what a loaded roster Jordy has with Team Canada. So Jordy's been kind of virtual, and the rest of the coaching staff, Steve Hetzel, the head assistant, is currently running the summer league preparations as they get ready to go to Vegas. And Sean Marks went on to say, I think you could see the energy in the gym now that they're practicing for summer league. So that's been terrific. The sweat equity in this coaching group is putting on the floor with our guys. There's a different level, a different vibe. Cookie cutter stuff. What do you expect him to say? No, I don't think Juwan Howard and Steve Hetzel are working hard enough. No, there's energy, there's development. They're working with the young guys. Noah Clowney's been in the gym. Jalen Wilson's been in the gym. Derek Whitehead's been in the gym. There's no limitations on his participation in this summer league. And he went on to say, I've been really thrilled with how this group and specifically Jordy is approaching this. And, he's got his work cut out for him right now with Team Canada, but it's going to be great to go there and support him. And so we're taking a group down there to see him in Vegas as well. There's that good old family culture atmosphere that the Brooklyn Nets pride themselves on, bringing a contingent down to support their coach in Team Canada. And a great question here, how much was the depth of the 25 and 26 draft classes as a factor in the decision making, mainly with the Houston deal? And I'm just going to read you the full quote because I think it's an excellent one and very telling. I mean, that's always a factor in it. I mean, we're always looking 2, 3, 4 years ahead to try to navigate a pathway. And I think when we're looking at this, not holding our picks, honestly, that would have been detrimental to these two draft classes. So, now that we have quite a number of picks, and especially in 25, we'll see how we navigate that. But we're excited about what the future holds, not only for our scouts, but how we build this up and through the draft. How we build this up and through the draft. Love that line. Thank you, Sean Marks, for being clear that you are going to build this up through the draft, leaving the door open for other potential moves, but the fact that you're willing to admit that you want to build this up through the draft. Love it. We needed it. And then he went on to talk about some of the next steps that he sees this offseason. And right off the bat, he hopes that Trendon Watford is back. He would love to have him be a part of the group. So that's a priority for us now. They had tendered him a qualifying offer. So he is currently a restricted free agent. And any offer that Trendon Watford gets, the Brooklyn Nets have the right to match. And he said, I think we're just letting the dust settle a little bit on free agency, seeing what happens around the league landscape, and then we'll navigate that, as we will. And I think that's a direct tie to the incessant rumors that Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith are being traded at today. Like June 30th, the minute that Mikal Bridges trade happened, everyone was like, got to trade everyone. Got to trade everyone. We are not at that point of free agency or the trade market where those two are going to become a focal point. You're always hearing rumors. Cleveland has interest. Philly has interest. The Lakers have interest. Wait and see. There is nothing wrong with bringing these two into the season and letting them get their shine and letting them get their play time. And then when something happens and a team is in the need of a 3-and-D wing player, the Brooklyn Nets are there waiting to pounce, waiting for a team to overpay because now there is a need and a want to have a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith on your roster or a guy like Cam Johnson on your roster. So there's no reason to rush this. Now, obviously, if you get the deal you like, and in my opinion, it starts with first-round picks, and definitely for Dorian Finney-Smith because of the contract and whatnot, that's definitely going to warrant a first-round pick. For me, Cam Johnson is a little bit different because of the length of the contract, the down year he had last year. That could be a player, a sign-and-trade player. There's a lot of talk of Isaac Okoro from Cleveland doing a sign-and-trade. There's also talk with Dorian Finney-Smith with Philly about KJ Martin in a sign-and-trade. I think Cam Johnson might net us several second-round picks. I'm not sure if we're getting an actual unprotected first-round pick. There might be heavily protected first-round picks, like what New York has with Detroit and Washington in their first-round pick that was top 14 protected, top 11 protected, top 10 protected. Then if it doesn't convey, it goes into second-round picks. So I do that. Take it if you can get it, but if you get a boatload of second-round picks for Cam Johnson and sign and trade, I do it. Then he was asked about awkwardness about dealing with the Knicks, and he said no. There's no shortage of communication there with the Knicks. And again, I'm not worried about doing a deal with them. We do a deal that we feel is the best for the Brooklyn Nets moving forward. Amen, Sean Marks. Don't worry about what the fans say. Don't worry about the talk in media in New York City. You make the best deal for your organization. And this Knicks deal with the Nets for Mikal Bridges is the best for the Brooklyn Nets organization. Not as big as the Houston trade, but this trade was best to trade Mikal Bridges. It got us the biggest return. And the one liner of the whole interview is about Sean Marks being able to get in contact with Leon Rose, because Leon Rose does not talk to the New York media whatsoever. He does no interviews. He does nothing. And he said, "Oh no, I can reach him. I don't know about you guys, but I can reach him." And then he lets out a chuckle, which I thought was a tremendous one-liner for the interview. And then he was asked to compare the two rebuilds, compared to what he inherited when he was hired in 2016, compared to what he's doing now in 2024. And he said, "Look, I think there's great lessons as we build this for the first time. The first couple of years we built through offer sheets." Ask Miami about the offer sheet they made. Oh man, I forgot his name. Oh man. Oh, I forgot his name. Well, the offer sheet to Alan Crabb, and took us 2 first-round picks to get rid of him. But I digress because I forgot the young man's name from Miami. The first couple of years we built through offer sheets, we built through cap space, being creative in some of those signings that we made then. He said we'll take that and try and implement the same thing as we do it now. But again, we didn't have a whole lot of draft picks back in the day. And how we do it, again, it sounds a little mundane, but we'll be strategic in how we continue to build. This time we can build through the cap space that we'll have. And also, it's a new CBA. So I think that affects everybody a little differently. And I think flexibility moving into this new CBA, nobody's quite sure how it's going to be. I mean, you look at the free agency right now and how it's affecting different teams. So for us to maintain that flexibility into the season is pretty important for us. Does not want to go into the first or second apron, does not want to mess with the cap sheet for next year. Okay. They have, the opportunity to rebuild right now is on a silver platter. It's an a la carte menu, or you can pick a 5-course meal and how you want to do this. The flexibility and the opportunity and the options, really, you can mix and match on how they want to do it. It really all depends on how things unfold. But he's basically saying, look, there's a lot of different ways we can operate here. We can operate a team that's aggressive in the trade market. We can be patient and go into free agency. We know that they are committed to building through the draft. They have a boatload of draft picks. So he's basically laying out that there's a lot of different options and there's many ways that he could take this. And, we've got to see how things play out. We're all expecting a 15 to 20 win team because we want to guarantee ourselves the top 5 pick. I believe that's going to happen this season. There's going to be a lot of episodes where we just bang our head up against this microphone and we're like, wow, this is some miserable basketball. Not saying that the guys are not playing hard or not competing, but the talent is just not there. We were a 32-win team with Mikal Bridges. We've added Shake Milton and the other young man's name from the Knicks, who I can't say, and Bojan Bogdanovic. So there's some veteran leadership. He wasn't healthy last year. He was actually benched with the Knicks towards the end of the season before he did get hurt. So a 32-win team with no real additions. We've taken off our best player. We've added nobody through the draft. We're not going to win a lot of games, but Jordy Fernandez gets Cam Thomas and Dariq Whitehead and Noah Clowney and Nick Claxton playing above their weight and they're punching up. You never know what's going to happen. So that's what I mean by paying attention, seeing what's happening, and just letting things unfold before we automatically assume that it has to be a 10-win season or 12-70 again, and then we're going to end up with the 5th pick anyway. So let's just kind of pump the brakes on being the worst team in the league. Let's see kind of how it unfolds. So then he was asked, what changed your mind from competing to rebuilding? And he said, and this was his most honest answer, in my opinion, throughout the entire interview, I think you have to look at yourself in the mirror and as an organization, and you go, okay, what's the best path for us moving forward? And how do we do this? And how do we have that sustainable success that we want? Remember, that is something that Joe Tsai had talked about at some event he was at about a month or two ago, building the right way and having sustainable success. When you're able to garner that amount of draft assets over the course of the last year, I think that's going to help us in our trajectory long-term and so forth. Now, you mentioned competing. Doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and tell you that Jordy is not going to want to compete. That's not in his DNA to compete. So he'll go out there and do whatever the roster may look like. These guys are trying to compete. It's an incredible opportunity for some of these young guys and the vets to go out and show the world what they've got. we're going to lose a lot of games. They're going to compete, but we ain't winning a lot of games. We all know this roster is probably the worst roster in the league. I do not think that maybe Washington, depending on what Chicago does with Lonzo and Zach LaVine, not saying they're going to trade them, but if they play, this is setting up to be two or three of the worst rosters in the NBA. So bottom of the NBA is where we'll be at. Not going to win a lot of games, but they're going to go out, they're going to play hard, and the young guys are going to get plenty of opportunities to get burned and play some basketball. So was trading Mikal a possibility when negotiating to hire Jordy Fernandez? And another great answer by Sean Marks, a very honest answer. I think it's very important to be upfront when you're hiring a coach or any staff member for that matter, for them to know that there's a variety of different pathways we can go down. The flexibility that we had in terms of the roster, the cap, the salaries that we have, this outcome could be one of them. We're not going to shy away from that. So we knew well ahead of this potential avenue, and he bought in completely. So he knew going down when he got hired by Brooklyn that this was a real possibility and this was something they were seriously considering, and he bought in anyway. When they started to hire the coaching staff, development and player development was the one thing that kept coming up from like Steve Hetzel, Juwan Howard. It just kept that word development kept creeping up in any article and any bit about the Nets coaching staff was all about development. The wheels were turning already with Jordy Fernandez about what path they were going to take and what he was going to need from a coaching staff to be successful, to build something sustainable. So he bought in very early. He understood what was going on, and I believe he hired the coaching staff to fit the bill for what's going to be needed the next few years. He talked about that there's no limitations for Dariq Whitehead in what he's going to be able to do. So he's healthy. He's fully healthy. What do you expect to see from Noah, Dariq, and Jalen in year two? It's health for Dariq for sure. That'll be great. They're out there on the court right now. There's no hindrance there. That has helped. I think what Noah's added to his game over playing with the G League. So it's just get better, get out there and compete at the highest level. He didn't say anything in particular. He said Jalen showed glimpses. So it's another great opportunity for these guys to go out there, have the ball in their hands more, show what they've worked on and compete. Just go out there and compete and play, and let's see what you've worked on, and let's see how much you're getting better in the off season. There's no limitations for. Did the Bridges trade and rebuild impact Nick's mindset? And he said that's probably a good question for Nick. I mean, we were upfront with Nick and told him the pathway of the team. We're not going to be adding the stars right now that you may want. And I think for us to have success long term, this is a pathway that we could go down. So we knew upfront. Win, losses, $100 million can cover up a lot of that for Nick Claxton. So he's going to get the boatload of his money in the first 2 years. It is a descending structured contract. So if it's an opportunity where he may want out, if this is not progressing in a timely fashion for him, if he wants to, win, then it'll be definitely a very easily tradable contract for the Brooklyn Nets for how they structured it. But he knew what he was getting into when he signed the contract, and he got the money that he wanted. And he's worth every penny, provided that he continues to develop his offensive game, because it is a must that he develops more of an offensive game than just rim running and lob threats. Okay, on it. And then he went on to talk about if failing to land a star forced his hand to trade Bridges. And there's one sentence here that blew me away. It didn't really even get to that because we did the trade first before we got the opportunity to sign or add stars. I think we're weighing the options of what's the best thing timing-wise for the franchise here. And I believe that this was the best pathway for us to go down right now instead of waiting. And we could have kept waiting. There's no shortage of players who want to play with Mikal because he's a heck of a talent out there, and we'll miss him. But this trade gives us a very clear pathway and a direction going forward. It didn't even get to that because we did the trade first before we got the opportunity to sign and add stars. The Knicks came in, pushed everything to the middle, and because Houston was so enamored with the Phoenix picks, and they got all of them. Basically, a 4-for-2 swap. We got control of our 2 picks, and then this. The Nets knew right away that this was the right path forward. They didn't even entertain the idea of seeing if a Donovan Mitchell was available or anything like that. They didn't even get to that point. I guess this all kind of happened very quickly for Brooklyn, and they didn't bother to wait. So that's pretty much the gist of you know the interview. Just wanted to jump on, give some reaction. He had talked about the mindset of the current veterans. We know that Dennis Schroeder, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Ben Simmons, even to an extent, they want to be in a place where they have an opportunity to win. So I am sure that as the dust begins to settle, they will start to look at what's available for these guys, being patient, waiting for value, even if it goes into the season, seeing what's out there for Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, so on and so forth. So that's pretty much it. Very happy with the interview. I wanted him to be clear and concise on what they were talking about, and I think this is the best he's done at being clear and concise on what he's looking to do and what the future of the organization holds. So now we can all agree this is a rebuild. This is a rebuild the right way. He left the door open on flexibility and being vigilant and being strategic. He's always going to use those words in any interview that he does. He was clear, he was concise about the future of this organization. We all know it now. We all know where we're headed the next few years. And now we can all dissect and talk about and discuss and argue and belabor the ways that the Brooklyn Nets can get back into contention and build something that's sustainable. Now, as far as BK Nets Nation and what we have coming up, after the 2 episodes we did on X, I've decided to not only be live on X, but also to bring BK Nets Nation to YouTube. I have an entire summer filled with content. We will be diving deep into the Summer Olympics. We're going to be covering Team USA and Team Canada, obviously heavy on Team Canada because of Jordy Fernandez's connection. And we'll also be talking about Team USA because that is one of the greatest rosters assembled in recent memory that Team USA has. And Kevin Durant's hurt with a calf strain. We're going to be breaking down a lot of what we see on X. I'm going to have a weekly special on X Sunday mornings about what I see going on in the Nets Twitterverse and Nets Twitter in general. There is some incredibly funny and very entertaining and thought-provoking stuff going on. Someone had posted a list, tiers of Nets players I can't wait to dive into. And then as we transition into the middle of August, we will start with our season preview stuff and our player profile series. BK Nets Nation is jammed packed. There is daily content almost, not every day, then 4 or 5 days a week. BK Nets Nation will be here live on YouTube and on X, giving you all the Nets coverage that you need. We'll be live as news breaks, or as soon as we can be live as news breaks. So again, this is Mike Hosier. This is BK Nets Nation. If you like what you're seeing here, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you can get the latest content on the Brooklyn Nets. And you can find me all across social media at mhosierbk. And Nets Nation, let's get it. It's going to be a great summer of content here on YouTube and on X. And I'll talk to you again soon with our 2024 Summer League preview show. Brooklyn Nets basketball, baby. It's just too sweet.